My brothers and sisters, humanitarians, this is my very, very, very special friend, Jamey Spence, who's lived in Nepal for some years, many years, travelled all over Asia, many experiences. And we're going to talk about health and spirituality. And I want his message to be outreach to the whole world. It even has an effect on me because of my health issues, and uh, and I want to make changes in my life as well. And it is all about spirituality. It's not about religion. Jesus Christ was the most anti-religious person that ever walked the face of this earth. He despised those religious, self-righteous, stuck-up, prideful ones. He had more time for the common sinner in the street. But anyway, Jamey is Buddhist, and a lot of the values and principles he has makes him even better than a lot of Christians I know. Well, no one's really better, but we're better off. And he's got a heart of gold, and he knows what he's talking about. And I'd like to share his values and his message to the world and to all you viewers out there. So speak your mind, Jamey, and from your heart.
Yeah, nice to meet you all. Um, my great friend, uh, Johnny Kirk, we call him,
That's my nickname, Johnny. Yep, or John.
and it's so great to see him come around here today and visit him. It's been a few years, and it's really, really amazing to be here. And he's telling me a little bit about himself, and I shall know a fair bit already of his past and his history, of where we both came from in Kalgoorlie in Western Australia. And Johnny, or Turkey is his other name.
Yep, Daryl Kirky.
Daryl Turkey. Uh, he's telling me we're talking about different ways you can be affected by health and different things that happen to us in our body. And I have to tell you straight up, I'm no scientific doctor in these levels. All I know is that what works for me. I've been a vegan. I was a vegan for 15 years,
Amen.
and I have been a vegetarian for 47 years, and 15 years of that period of time was as a vegan. I've spent a lot of time in Asia, and in any case, I became a vegetarian originally as a child due to the way they treated animals and how I was forced to kill two little goats when I was in a boarding school, and I was forced into doing it, and a man leant over the top of me and held a knife in my hand and made me cut the throat of a goat, which I didn't want to do. I cried throughout the whole experience, and I said to myself during that moment in time when it was all happening, when I had to kill it and cut its throat and gut it up the middle and pull its guts out and skin it, all being forced the whole way through the whole episode by a man leaning over the top of me with a knife. I said to myself during that period of time that I would never, ever, ever eat meat again. I was 12 years old. I've never eaten meat since that day. I'm now 63. In those years since that period of time, I've had to fight for my rights to be a vegetarian. In the days when I started being a vegetarian as a child, no one could actually accept it. And no one really believed it, that I couldn't eat meat. As I grew up as a young boy, I was invited to barbecues in Kalgoorlie, which is cooking meat on a hot fire outside, and I would never turn up until I knew all the meat was eaten, and then I'd come along later and have a beer with the fellas. But I'd never join in at the time when the barbecue was happening. So I avoided things like that, and I've had to try everywhere I go, ask everywhere I go for food without meat. A lot of people couldn't take it and would say, oh, you can pull the meat out of the inside and then you've got no meat in it. They don't understand that the flavour of the meat is all through it, and I don't want to do that. It's always about the connection of the animal, how the animal was killed. they often kill with no humane connection at all. It's just completely, uh, it's horrible what they do. If you know what they do and how it's done, it might turn you off yourself. So in any case, as a youngster, until now, I'm still fighting for my rights to eat no meat. I still find most shops I go to, they have a smorgasbord of meat things and a small amount of things with no meat. So I usually get less meat. That's how I can keep the weight down, because I eat less. I don't eat sugar. I'm not into sugar and things like that. Occasionally I have it, but not much. I'm not a vegan, so I have honey and so forth.
Eggs.
Don't eat eggs.
Don't eat
Don't
eggs.
eat fish.
Not eat fish as well.
No, I don't eat fish.
Except maybe if for survival you'd eat it.
Probably not. I definitely couldn't eat meat even for survival. Could not do it.
Wow, but you take vitamin B12 when you're not having meat.
Time,
yeah, which is good for vegetarians and vegans. Yep.
Yeah, look, people I knew who were also vegetarians had to go get B shots.
B shots. Yep.
But I never had to do it.
Never had to do it. No.
I suppose because I also knew that eating beans, I read about what sort of foods hold B vitamins, and so I'd eat those foods, and there was a lot of beans and pumpkin. I'd always keep the skin on the pumpkin when I cooked it.
Yep.
Always keep the skin on anything when I ate it.
Yep.
Tried to buy organic food so I didn't have to eat
Of course.
pesticides, herbicides,
Exactly.
fungicides, and all the other crap that goes into when I grow vegetables. Trying to avoid all that. And many times I didn't eat anything in many places.
Fasting's good.
Yeah, when I travelled, I did a lot of fasting and got really skinny. At one stage, after travelling for 3 years from Hong Kong, where I used to work as looking after street dogs, when I left Hong Kong, when my contract finished, I travelled up through guts of Hong Kong right through to the top up in Beijing, and on that whole journey I found that the Chinese ate a lot of meat, and it was quite funny. One restaurant I went to, I was with some Chinese people, and they were very proud to have me with them, and we're in a restaurant, and they knew I had explained to them that I didn't eat meat, in the best way I could to do, not speaking Han Chinese, and so they ordered from the kitchen a special dish with no meat, but they didn't make separate dishes. So they brought out this big pot, and the waiter came and told the head person at our table that the meat was down the bottom and the vegetables were on top, and so that I could go into the dish first and take the vegetables at the top. But I didn't do that, because even though they made a big effort to provide me meat at the bottom of the dish and the vegetables were on top, I still couldn't do it. So I just ate rice that night, and that used to happen a lot. And I continued my journey right through down to Lhasa, and through Lhasa across the Himalayas into Tibet, to Nepal, and then I travelled down through Nepal and into India and through the top end of India. I brought a motorbike in a place called Pokhara in western Nepal, and I rode that down into India and across the top end and all the way up into Kashmir of northern India, and I spent some time up there, and I connected with the Buddhists for the first time in my life. A real deep connection there up in Ladakh, and but they all ate meat. The monks ate meat, that I found out.
Oh, really?
I actually thought they were vegetarians until then, but I was wrong. In any case, I had to eat more rice. And eventually when I got back down to the lowlands, I had to get dal again, so it was great. Had lots of thalis and stuff, and lots of beautiful vegetarian food across India. And that was just one journey. That was a 3-year journey. And so just like to say that being a vegetarian keeps you healthier than than eating meat all the time. And you don't have a lot of complications in your diet. Like, you don't have any complications in your body so often.
Mm.
You can generally get away with a lot of things, and see your friends falter around you, which is really sad.
Mm.
And I'd like to tell my friends that if they could drop the use of meat, especially when you consider how the animals are killed, and even if you kill them yourself, if you can do it humanely, do it humanely. I don't say don't eat meat, I just say if you do kill animals, you kill them humanely. Kill them fast, without them even knowing it's coming. If you can buy organic feed that's been killed humanely,
Mm.
you know, it's hard to find, but if you try, you might be able to find it. If you love to eat meat, well, you know, that's your thing, but I just recommend to everybody I can think about on the planet,
Mm. Mm.
try to consider the life of the other animal before you eat it. If you eat it, say thank you to the spirit of the animal that is gone. And one thing I learned from the Buddhist culture is that if you see a dead animal suffering, or you see an animal about to die, say the simple mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum. If you can say Om Mani Padme Hum, then to the animal, with the animal in mind, we hope that that gives it some peace and moves it on into its next life faster and more peacefully.
When I lived in the Middle East for 2 years, I saw a Muslim kill a cow very slowly. It was extremely painful, and then last few minutes the cow was kicking and trying to breathe, and then it slit the last bit of its throat, and people standing around, then they share the meat with everybody. But the thing is, I remember watching that beautiful cow it was, and I was just the sadness I felt from that experience. It almost turned me off. That cow would just wander aimlessly around the streets, a place called Chittagong in Bangladesh. So I can appreciate what Jamey's saying. And by the way, I'm diabetic too, for all you diabetics out there. We're not supposed to have rice and all of those high carb veggies. Though if you're fasting, which when I do that, a whole day fasting, and I can get away with all of that in the evening, the rice, the veggies, everything, even noodles. And it can knock me out and sleepy, but I have a good night's sleep. I don't need sleeping tablets. When you have beans, the raw beans, it's got lectins in it, and I pressure cook them. It kills all the lectins. They cause inflammation, all sorts of things. But so does meat. But meat cause there's a lot of deteriorating health effects from eating meat. And I know the keto diet, a lot of people, they give up the carbs and they start eating a lot more meat. And they say if you lower your carbs, then you eat fats, it turns it into healthy cholesterol rather than bad cholesterol. I did that for a while, but I was getting hungry, and I was eating a lot more meat, and then I decided to go vegan. I did that for 2 weeks, and every ache and pain in my body disappeared. Though I did have a lot of, what do you call it, bowel movement. It was real cleansing, and then I went back on the meat, and I noticed all the aches and pains had come back. It changes your lifestyle. It's a lifestyle, and it changes even your way of thinking and everything. And then you can notice the aggression of people who do eat a lot of meat. It's the animal instinct coming out through mankind. It's, you don't hear many vegetarians and vegans going around killing people. They're more at peace. So anyway, Jamey, this is his life. So I will continue on with what he has to say, and and his experiences of living in Nepal and other parts of the world. Continue, Jamey. Thank you, brother.
What would you like to know?
I'd like to know about your near-death experience in Nepal when you fell off that mountain and how they took care of you, maybe. You've got a website that explains all of this, by the way.
Yeah, I have a website.
What's the name of that website?
The website's good because back in 2001, I did have a little accident. I did fall. Actually, I was climbing. I wasn't meant to be climbing. I wasn't a climber. It's really about my only third real climb. I had done a little bit of training in New Zealand, and I'd done some prep over there and did climbing walls in different places. And then I always wanted to go to the Himalayas. And I had never planned to climb anything in the Himalayas, but I met another guy and we were doing a trek. It was on the Annapurna circuit, and he talked about, we need to do an acclimatization hike to prepare for going up over Thorongla Pass. Well, that's fair enough because Thorongla Pass is quite high and 5,500 metres or something of that nature. The pass, which is a lot of tourists go over it. And this acclimatization hike that we had to do was about 600 metres up. And so we did that. When we got to a point up there, we sat on the edge of the cliff. We took our boots off. We got in the sun for a while. We chilled out. We had a Mars bar each. We thought that was pretty good. We thought, well, time to put our boots on and head on down the hill. The sun goes down at least in about 3 hours. So we got at least 2.5 hours and then half an hour walk to the village. That should be pretty easy. And we're going downhill now, not uphill, so it's gone extra easy, we think. I was thinking anyway. And so in any case, we go down the side of the hill, and after, or the side of the mountain, and as we're going down, and by the way, this is not summiting a mountain. This is just going down a mountain, down the side of one. It's much higher than where we got to. We're only part of the way up. And so we're going back down the side of the mountain, and then after some time, my friend said, let's take a shortcut, and we'll go that way. There might be a little bit of climbing to be done, but we'll be right. I thought, yeah, okay, I don't want to go the way everybody else is going. Let's do something different. So we take off in our own direction, avoid the path. And he said, you take the lead. So I said, yeah, cool, this is great. I'll take the lead, yeah, I'm into that. So I took, just walking a little bit ahead of him. And as we're going down, the trail there was no trail really, we just sort of had to make it up. And it got steeper, and it got steeper, and it got steeper. And we're still a fair way up. Probably about 300 metres up. And it was slow going, it wasn't fast because we had to scramble a fair bit, traverse a bit here and there. But then eventually the rocks got very steep. In fact, they're quite steep, like about that. And I was thinking, maybe this is a bit dodgy. But in any case, I'm in the lead, I'm all good. And he's above me about maybe 10 metres behind me, coming down slowly, like me moving slowly forward. And as we go down, we came to an overhang. And it was about, I don't know how far, but the rock went down and around. And I thought, oh, I'll have to get over that because I did an overhang in New Zealand. I can handle this. So I was leaning and I was face up against the wall, and I was moving down and trying to find a place to put my foot underneath. And I was moving my foot around into thin air, and I couldn't find anything. And I was leaning up the other foot then, trying to find a foothold there, and I've got an idea that I can go backwards over this thing and continue down. Well, I couldn't actually find hold, and as I was leaning, hanging on and looking over my shoulder, the rock I was holding actually broke in my hand, and that was it. I just went straight down. I completely lost control of my hold, and there was nothing for my foot to sit on. I only had one foot on and one hand on, and it wasn't enough to hold my weight. and I went straight down. And I was grabbing thin air. I go, wah! And then all of a sudden I hit I hit a scree slope, what they call scree slope. And I think it was around about that steep at least.
Mm.
And I hit it on my chest and went straight down. And as I went down this very fast slope, I was on my chest, sliding down, and I was trying to grab the ground, sliding backwards down the slope. And I slid maybe 50, 60, 100 meters even, quite a long way. And I hit a pile of rocks. And basically you could call this thing like a divine intervention almost, because the pile of rocks, when I hit the rocks, I literally stopped me, of course. And I hit it with my left leg. My right leg completely missed that pile of rocks. The pile of rocks was nowhere else, just one pile, little tiny outcrop, about the size of maybe 2 meters this way, and it was tiny outcrop of rock in amongst the scree. And this literally, when I hit into that, we heard this really loud snap sound. It was like, I actually thought a shotgun had gone off. Very close. It just sounded like a massive snap or crack, and the sound went right through the whole valley. It sounded like it ricocheted through this massive valley. And
Wow.
it was my Achilles snapping. And then I just lay there in that sort of basic angle, like sort of standing up but leaning against the wall of the rocks, of the scree. And eventually, my friend David, the other climber, I heard the rocks sliding above me. I looked up, and he's coming down the scree slope using his ice axe as a brake, and sliding, and use a brake and pull it out and slide, and brake and pull out and slide, until he got to me. And he said to me, "You okay?" And I said, "I don't think so. I think I've done something to my leg." He said, "Try and push some weight on it off that rock. I'm leaning on. Try and push up some weight." So I leant into it and I tried to push some weight, and it just agonising pain. He says, "Okay, you hang on to my ankle and we'll slide the rest of the way down the scree slope." So it was probably another 100 meters to the bottom of the slope, and then we got there was rocks and more rocks, and I put my arm around his shoulder and he gave me his ice axe, and I used that as a crutch. And over the next hour and a half we managed to get over these rocks, and then we had to do a bit of a walk back to the village. And then when we got there, the sun had already set. Luckily we had one head torch between us. We weren't prepared for overnight anything. It was freezing cold. It was like maybe, I don't know, it's pretty cold. It's around about 0. And we got back to the village, and I got lifted by some guys up to my bed. I was on the second floor, put me on my bed, and I passed out immediately almost. The next morning I woke up and I had a massive foot about that big. And then eventually some guys came to my room and they saw my foot was totally swollen. My leg was swollen right up. And they came and helped me up there. We took me down to some guys who were doing that could look at my foot and work out what's wrong. And someone grabbed my foot and they moved it this way and that way, and they said, "You snapped your Achilles, we think. You need to get to the hospital." They said, how many days did it take you to walk here?" I said, "It took me 9 days to get here." They said, "Well, it's going to take you at least 9 days to get back, maybe more." They said, "We can put you on a donkey and get you down to the next village, and at that little village there's an airstrip. A plane might come today, tomorrow, next week, or even 3-4 weeks away. Might come. There's no radio contact. Or you can take the donkey, sit on the donkey, we'll get a donkey organised, we'll get a guy to take the reins of it, and he'll guide the donkey, and you can go for 9 days or 12 days, whatever it's going to take, you to get across those mountains again and back to a place we can get a bus back to our main village. So I thought the donkey sounds alright, I'll be able to get out faster this way. But after 12 hours on that donkey down to the next village, I decided that I don't think I could do 9 days on a donkey or 12 days or anything. I actually had bruises all through my groin, and I was more pain now than I was when I started, just from that donkey. And my foot was like throbbing because it had been hanging off the side of a saddle all that way.
Mm.
And so I ended up staying in that village. And the village was run by, it was a Tibetan refugee camp. And there was maybe a couple of hundred refugees there, Tibetans, who'd crossed those mountains, escaping China's occupation. And they were staying there until they could get permission to be moved on to other refugee camps outside of the region, and probably hoping to get to India, is where they'd all go, to Dharamsala, where the Dalai Lama lives.
Wow.
So that's their plan when they escape Tibet, and they want to get refuge and security in another country, support. So anyway, this is my first meeting of Tibetans, and I decided that I wouldn't take the donkey all the way out. I asked through the guy who took my donkey, could you ask these people, can I stay somewhere? And so he asked some people who had a little shop there, and there was a couple of Tibetans running a little shop, and he asked them, is there somewhere I can stay, because it wasn't for tourists to stay. And they came back and said he can have room in the front shop. And what these people did, they'd moved a shelf away with all their goods in it. It was like the general store. They moved a shelf, and they moved another shelf, and they made a gap in between the shelves and made a little bed there, and said he can stay here until the plane comes. And the plane took 2.5 weeks before it got there.
Oh, right.
So I was there for 2.5 weeks, day and night, sitting with the Tibetans. And I didn't speak a word of Tibetan, and they didn't speak hardly a word of English. But they fed me, they looked after me, they carried me out every day and put me in the snow. The women, I sat with the women while the men were out there doing work and trying to make their lives better. And they put snow over my leg and my ankle every day. And then they brush it all off after about an hour, and then put more snow later so my leg didn't get frostbite. And they looked after me. They fed me momos and other like millet and different foods. And in the evening, they'd give me a little tiny clay cup of Roxy, which is this beautiful, delicious mountain, almost like a liqueur, but a whiskey, I guess, or a grappa, or schnapps, what do you want to call it. But it's a mountain brew. And I'd have a glass of that, which really went to my head. It was quite strong, and it felt pretty good.
Amen.
And sit in this really warm kitchen, because they have beautiful clay stoves, and they shine up all their pots, and all the people would come there every night to say hello to this weird Westerner who was stuck in their village with them. And I stayed there, and then eventually, after 2.5 weeks of being with these wonderful, beautiful people, I couldn't believe that people want to chase them out of a country. They're absolutely amazing people, so beautiful, peaceful, and really looked after me. And then 2.5 weeks later, I'm sitting out there in the snow with these women, and then someone comes running and yelling out, plane, plane, plane. And I thought, wow, I didn't even have time to think. Next thing you know, they grabbed me up off the ground, a couple of men, and I got my arm around their shoulder, and they had their hands like that, and they carried me out. Man on each side, my hands around their necks. And as we went through past the little room that I'd been staying, the little general store, I got to look inside, and I saw 2 people grabbing my stuff and shoving it in top of my backpack. And I was just thinking, wow, hope they get all my stuff. And they're shoving it all in, and that's all I saw in my pack at that stage. And then we got out the front, and there was all these Tibetans, and all these beautiful people in their beautiful costumes, how they dress up normally. And they were all singing and singing their chanting style, playing horns, and they all walked behind me while I was carried by the 2 men, and they walked all the way down to a little airstrip, a little dirt airstrip, and they were all singing and crying, and they were losing this guy that they just met, you know. And they took me down to the airstrip, and when we got to the airstrip, I couldn't believe it, but I heard a Westerner's voice, and there's a Western guy down there. He was an Israeli man, and he was arguing with the pilots about, is there another plane coming? And the pilots were saying, no, no other plane. And the two pilots that were flying this little Yeti Airlines aircraft, it was a little six-seater, they were saying, no other plane's coming. Well, I couldn't believe there's another Israeli guy. It turns out he's been staying actually inside the refugee camp before the Tibetans. And there's like 300 Tibetans there, or 250, 300. And he wanted to know if there's another plane coming. But it turns out, eventually, I said, look, mate, I'm going to take this plane because I want to get to a hospital. My leg is really damaged. I'm taking this plane because he asked me not to take it. I said, I want to take it. And I will pay the $150 US dollars that they were charging. And they're going to take me to Kathmandu. And from Kathmandu, I'll take a bus from there, 200 k's back to Pokhara, where I heard there's a hospital that would take me as a Westerner. And because I had insurance, but the hospitals in Kathmandu wouldn't do it apparently. I don't know why. So we took this plane. The Israeli guy argued a lot. When the plane finally did take off, the runway is very short, and the flight out of that place is very, very steep because it's high mountains all around you. And so the guys flying this little plane had to pull back on the joystick as hard as they could, and the plane steeply inclined upwards to avoid hitting the mountains. As we were going up, the plane suddenly swung to its right side. I smashed my head on the window. I got to see out as something went underneath us very fast. It was a big plane, a bigger plane.
Ooh.
We missed it by about maybe 10 meters. I got to see all the rivets across the top of its wings, very clearly.
Ooh.
I could see the water beating off. It was like
Wow.
incredible. And because of that, he jumped. As soon as our plane righted its angle up, got level again, this Israeli guy was in between the two pilots, and he was yelling at them, saying, take us back, that's the plane, take us back, turn around. And the pilots were still going up to try and avoid these mountains. This
Freaky.
is insane. This guy's hanging on between the door, between the little cockpit area, yelling to turn the plane around. And we knew that was not possible, but it was out there. Then all of a sudden, the co-pilot of that plane we were in, he just suddenly, all I saw was this gun go to the temple of the Israeli guy.
Ooh.
And just said, sit down, yelling at him, sit down. And as soon as I saw the gun on the guy's head, I started yelling, sit down. And there was one Tibetan guy on the plane, and he also yelled, sit down. And we were all yelling, sit down. Eventually the Israeli guy, of course he knows what a weapon can do, he eventually sits back. Okay.
Wow.
And then we
What a
spent
story.
the rest of that journey flying all the way to Nepal, I went to Kathmandu, across the tops of these mountains. And it was the most stunning, most beautiful flight in my life. It was a little bit exciting, all that sort of stuff that happened. I thought it was pretty cool, a little bit scary, but it was good. And we all survived, and we got to Kathmandu, and eventually I managed to get a bus, and I got back to Pokhara, and I got to hospital. But I spent the next 3 months eating vegetarian food, of course, and laying on my back, getting my leg healed. And then eventually when I got fixed up, I did a bit of exercise, did a bit of small hiking in the mountains close by to Pokhara. I eventually got well enough to return to the journey and finish it. And I did. I went back to that journey, and on the next trip across, I didn't do any climbing, just hiking or trekking, and I really looked where my foot went. I'm very careful, and I took a quarter to carry my backpack because my legs still wasn't very strong, but I wanted to return and finish the journey.
What year was this, Jamey?
2001.
2001. Right. I was in the Middle East 2002, I think it was. Yep. Well, Jamie, I'll ask you for your last words shortly. Now, viewers, I want you to share this video with as many people as you can. There is a lot of truth and wisdoms in the Buddhist faith because it's not even considered a religion, really.
It's a
They're
philosophy.
a philosophy, spiritual psychology that works. And if we applied a lot of these values and principles, we would all be better Christian. But I want to say one thing is those village people that that took care of Jamey and how they gave him a send-off, singing and showing love and compassion and rejoicing too that he had been rescued by the plane. This is the mentality of these people who have an understanding of the oneness of it all. We are all one. If there's 1,000 people in the room, including you, how many people? Just one. We're all part of the oneness of it all. So that's why we don't harm anyone else, no animals. Because we are made up of the stuff of the planets, the stars, the galaxies, the gases, the chemicals. Everything is within us, the universe, all within us. We are made in the image of God. As a Christian, I can say that. And we could have been a cockroach, we could have been anything. Of course, the Buddhists might have belief of we come back as something else if you've harmed animals. But the thing is, you know, if we should be loving ourselves and loving others, love the animals, love the planet, environmental friendly, everything. Right? Because we are it. We are it. It's not proven anywhere else in the universe as other life forms, though there could be. But we know the ones that are hovering around here, the prince of the air, possibly the demons, the fallen ones, the Nepal&, and they have nothing really to say except to deceive us. And anyway, so we are it. We are the human race. And we have a story to tell, and Jamey has real life experiences. So do I too. My journey was more involved with, because I was married to a war correspondent reporter, and we went through hell for that. From Muslims to the Nazis to Chinese communists, all come on board, and we had a lot of persecution and terror. But I only spent 2 years in the Middle East. Jamey has spent decades in the Middle East. So anyway, to finish up, I'm grateful that you all get to watch this. Please leave comments and give a thumbs up, and share this video with everybody. All right. There will be Christians, Buddhists, all sorts of people out there who will be watching this. So Jamey, may you say your last words, brother, before we finish up.
What I'd like to say is that I learnt from that moment in time about the compassion, the wisdom,
Understandings.
the beautiful people who have suffered a lot at the hands of other people who persecuted them. But these people can, like, they're above it all. They don't let this stop them from being who they can be. They become, it's in their heart, it's in their mind, it's in their soul, their spirit.
Spiritual DNA.
It's like, you know, it's a gift that they accept. It's just part of themselves. That they're here forever, like we all are.
Forever is now. We're in it.
Forever is now. I don't mean forever and ever like infinity. I mean, like, you know, our soul's forever. Spirit.
And I've always believed we could call this a philosophy, but it's in ancient texts, and you go back far enough to the Samaritan texts and so forth. The past, the present, and the future is happening at the same time, stretched through time and space. When we get these déjà vus, we have been everywhere, man. Multiple dimensional travel, soul travel. And I know that the connection that Jamey and I have, and I have incredible dreams and I visit places, and I'm sure that when you have a connection with someone, you can experience these dreams and go back, and I could almost sort of like watch the whole event, what Jamey went through, and so forth. So we're all connected, the higher intelligence, the spirit, and we're not learning anything then, we're remembering who we are, the grandiose version, best of ourselves. Stepping out of the fallen conditioned soul and getting into the spirit, where we come to know the truth rather than just believe in the truth. And we put the practice of the wisdoms, understandings, and if you want to say it from a Christian point of view, the footprints of the Bible, the attributes, the beatitudes on the mouth, the love, the compassion, and all these fruits of the Spirit, because if you don't have these fruits, you are nothing but dead men's bones, the Bible says. All your obedience and all your righteousness and all your religious rituals and everything, it means nothing if you do not have empathy and love and charity in your heart. God bless you all. Thank you, Jamey. I love you, brother, and I'm going to have to close this video because I'm getting emotional, but I really care about my brother here. He cares about me. We've had a long journey. We're tough buggers from Kalgoorlie, and I tell you what, one day we're going to all have to leave a legacy behind, and I know Jamey has got a beautiful legacy. I plead for all of you people to respond and leave comments. It would be very uplifting for Jamey, what he's been through, and to know that people really do care as much as he cares.
What's that?
Jamey cares, and he cares about the planet. This is Daryl Kirky, and I'm going to sign out now. God bless everybody, and peace be with unto you. And what do they say in Buddhist?
Tibetan.
Tibetan.
Say Tasha Delay.
Tasha Delay.
Tasha Delay means hello and goodbye.
Tasha Delay.
And Hindu and also Nepal is Namaste.
Namaste.
It means hello and goodbye. It also means a lot more. It means I see the God in you, and when you respond the word Namaste back, it means I see the God in you. And when you say Tashi Delay, yeah, as far as I understand, it means hello.
Amen.
Tashi Delay also means hello.
Amen.
It could also mean I see the God in you, and it could also mean I see the God in you.
And
Tashi Delay,
in the spirit,
Namaste.
we are all the oneness, highest of intelligence. This is you could say the great I am working through you. It is spiritual intelligence, and we should let the spirit lead the soul rather than soul lead spirit. And it's that level where we know, we have a knowingness in our awareness. We're not just believing, we are coming to know the God within. And you can say the great I am. The creation is all around and within us. We are flowing in the oneness of it and appreciating the values of all living things. We wake up, we touch the sky. We thank and we are grateful for all the blessings of life, and we desire to reach out and help anyone that we come in contact with, and be prompted by the spirit that is in man. And this is also a message for Christians. It is that spirit. And if you want to be a true Christian, be a Christian Buddhist, be a Christian Catholic, be a Christian Protestant, be a Christian, you got to apply the love, empathy, kindness, and compassion, because the Buddhists are doing this, the true Buddhists, and how they were persecuted and Dalai Lama getting out of that part of China, Tibet. And you wonder why. How could a people so beautiful be persecuted like that? What is the mentality to be treated that way? So think about it, my brothers and sisters. Why do we treat each other that way? Ego. There's good ego and there's bad ego, unhealthy ego. So let's surrender this ego and come unto the level of spirit, unconditional love. And then make it an action from the heart. Get out of your head into your heart and love everyone, but love yourself too, humbly. And I say this in the name of Jesus Christ, and honor and respect to Jamey and all the people of the Buddhist belief, for their example has touched my life. And if I wasn't a Christian, I would have chosen Buddhism. And I call myself a Christian Buddhist. And that is my path, and I'm grateful. And I'm grateful for Jamey being here today before he returns to Nepal. And I asked you again, share this video with the world. Leave comments, thumbs up. I'm not out for numbers. I'm not out for anything like that. I just want the truth to be known and have an awareness. So Jamey does have a website, I think. I can leave the link here later. God bless. Love you all. And I love you, Jamey. Thank you for being here today, my friend. Amen.
Thank you, brother.